2019 Peugeot 3008 SUV Review. The Peugeot 3008 can be an interesting car that's been able to make a significant splash in the household SUV market sector since its launch in 2019. It had to, because the last one would be a visually challenged mismatch from the people carrier with an SUV. The innovative styling in the 3008 continues on the within, and although Peugeot has styled it as being a 4x4 wannabe, it happens to be more of an MPV with attitude. Whatever the 3008 is, don't believe that it's an off-roader, though. Four-wheel drive just isn't available, although traction maximizing grip control, something that adapts to your type of surface you're driving on, may help in some circumstances. It is a car designed significantly for tarmac. Peugeot even goes as much as describing the 3008 as sporty. We'll take downside to that. The 3008 faces a lot of established rivals claiming to offer the same recipe of any high driving position, practical interior and affordable running costs. Leading the charge could be the Nissan Qashqai, that has sat high up the UK bestsellers list for quite some time, while using boldly styled Kia Sportage and Pricer VW TIG and gunning for similar customers. Other competition also comes in the four-in-the-seat Etika, in addition to the sleek and affordable Renault Kadjar and also the fun-to-drive Mazda CX-5. Where the 3008 bests all rivals, however, is within its ultra-sharp styling and super simple interior, which features a shrunken tire, with digital dials above as well as a driver-canted center console that includes large touchscreen infotainment system. Watch, the best SUVs discounted in the UK. Watch, Peugeot 3008 vs Skoda Karoq, Honda CR-V and Hyundai Tucson. Peugeot 3008, eye-catching inside and outside. It's this amazing style which will persuade buyers who go to their nearest Peugeot dealership. The 3008 really is definitely an attention-grabbing machine from the flesh. Managing combine a high stance with boxy but dramatic lines, the 3008 makes a lot of compact SUVs look bland and old-fashioned. The interior only adds to your feel-good factor, with plush materials like fabric and wood fabrics used over the seats plus the dashboard, plus a stronger sense of quality. This is important, taking into consideration the starting price barely sneaks below the £22,000 mark, with top-spec models rising above £30,000. Peugeot 3008. Comprehensive engine and trim choice. Engines consist of a 130 horsepower turbocharged 1.2-litre and 100 horsepower 1.6-litre diesel, most available in manual and automatic form, with a 180 horsepower 1.6-litre petrol and also a 180 horsepower diesel, both only sold with the automatic gearbox. There's another 1.5-litre diesel with 130 horsepower sitting within the middle with the range. Emissions. All versions, bar the strongest petrol with mud and snow tires, are competitive while using rest with the class. Specification levels differ from active to range-topping GT. Basic active trim is probably going to account for merely a handful of sales, with well-equipped Allure adding sat-nav and sharper styling. GT line models achieve sportier look while top-spec GT models, only available while using faster engine, consist of Mercedes aping blackwood dashboard trim. GT line and GT versions may also be specified using a two-tone black and grey coupe French finish, the spot that the front two-thirds from the car is but one color, while using rear third being black. Unlike many SUVs, it's the most affordable models which make the most sense with decent performance and low running costs, as being the automatic gearbox that's standard on one of the most potent petrol and diesel engines is frustratingly dim-witted and negates the benefit on the more powerful engines. Plenty of engine choice inside 3008. Automatic gearboxes from the most powerful. Lower powered engines. The top 4 engines are available inside the 3008 with 130 horsepower to 180 horsepower. Fastest undoubtedly are a 180 horsepower diesel and 180 horsepower petrol, with increased economical 130 horsepower diesel and petrol engines lower down the number. Peugeot 3008 Peugeot petrol engines. If you will want a petrol 3008, you've got to choose two. First up is really a 1.2-litre 3-cylinder unit named Peugeot 130. As the name suggests, it gives you 130 horsepower and is really a great fit inside 3008 using a useful 230 Nm of torque available. The engine is smooth and powerful and feels well suited for the car. It'll complete the benchmark 0 to 62 mph sprint in 10.8 seconds and is also capable of reaching a 117 mph top speed. It makes one of the most sense to prospects on a budget or those with a lot more to spend, if you steer clear from the power-sapping automatic gearbox that's provided with this engine. There's a Peugeot 180, which works on the 1.6-litre turbocharged unit paired exclusively by having an E8 automatic transmission. This version will sprint from 0 to 62 mph in 8.0 seconds, so that it is the quickest on the 3008 lineup in this connection. However, that has a torque figure of 250 Nm. Understanding that automatic gearbox, this doesn't happen always. Glance at the perkiest when you require to stand up to speed for the motorway, for instance. Peugeot 3008 Blue Eddy diesel engines. The 3008 diesel engine lineup was simplified together with the introduction of the new 1.5-litre unit producing 130 horsepower and 300 Nm of torque, replacing the Blue Eddy 100, 120 and 150 horsepower units in a fell swoop. In 6-speed manual form, this diesel will complete the 0 to 62 mph dash in 10.8 seconds, as you move. The E8 automatic version is slower at 11.5 seconds. It's an even and refined unit that feels punchy in manual form, feeling lively enough for almost all situations, should it be around town or sitting within the motorway. It feels an outstanding alternative for the Peugeot 130 petrol in the event you spend more time undertaking long journeys. At the top in the tree is really a 180 horsepower Blue Eddy diesel available exclusively by having an automatic gearbox. While it has ample power on paper, the truth is the automatic gearbox saps power and helps it feel much slower than you'd expect. A chunky 400 Nm torque figure provides lots of punch, but you'll need patience because the gearbox decides what to do when you put your foot down. It makes its 0 to 62 mph period of 8.9 seconds feel more stressful than you'd expect, too. Engines will no longer available. Before the Peugeot 180 arrived, the strongest petrol available was THP 165. It's a single 6-litre turbo petrol pushing out 165 horsepower and 240 Nm of torque. It'll sprint from 0 to 62 mph in 8.9 seconds. Nevertheless, it's only available through an E6 automatic gearbox. It can allow it to feel more lethargic about the move and, because of this, it doesn't believe that much quicker compared to the Peugeot 130. However, it'll reach higher top speed of 128 mph. For the diesels, the newer 1.5-litre Blue Eddy replaced the 100 horsepower and 120 horsepower versions on the 1.6-litre Blue Eddy units. Kicking from the diesel lineup would have been to a 1.6-litre Blue Eddy unit, only obtainable in entry-level active trim. It offers up 100 horsepower and 254 Nm of torque, however it's the slowest from the bunch. You'll need patience because it takes 13.1 seconds to have to 62 mph from your standstill, and may top out at 108 mph. Next up would be a 120 horsepower version on the same unit. It feels far more flexible because of 300 Nm of torque. It helps to make the 3008 feel much nippier and even more at home around the motorway, too. The 0 to 62 mph time drops to at least 1.2 seconds, while top speed increases to 117 mph. This engine is available having a choice of 6-speed manual or 6-speed automatic gearboxes. Stick while using manual though, it's much slicker and nicer to drive as opposed to indecisive auto. providing another big in power would have been a 2.0-liter Blue Eddy 150 with 150 horsepower and 370 Nm of torque. The 0 to 62 miles per hour sprint time drops again to 9.6 seconds, and it will wake up to 129 miles per hour. The way the 3008 handles varies between models. Lighter engines feel most sprightly. Automatic gearboxes limit fun factor. As with performance, this can be a tale of two halves. The 130 horsepower PureTech petrol model feels light and nimble around corners, with all the 120 horsepower diesel simply a step behind. The much heavier 180 horsepower diesel feels unwieldy and in comparison, though most drivers won't want for further grip with any 3008. The 165 horsepower petrol may weigh exactly like 120 horsepower diesel. Nevertheless, the automatic gearbox counters its driving experience, making for jerky progress around corners, whether you permit the gearbox to its own devices or take manual control while using the paddles installed on the tire. As a result, it's the less satisfying machine they are driving. The feel with the steering varies by model, too, though all have a tiny leader, which can be flattened around the top and bottom. While this may mimic a Formula One wheel, it can be incongruous within a road car, as unlike about the track in which the wheel barely turns between full right and left. In the 3008, the irregular shape makes corners an annoying affair. It is more difficult to adjust your grip when turning when you don't understand specifically which bit from the wheel you'll get. The lighter models give you a reasonably good sense of control throughout the wheel, although steering felt less intuitive within the more powerful models. Despite the small wheel additionally, it feels like you will need to turn this over expected to make bends, making the squashed shape with the wheel more irritating. A sport mode with the steering can be available, and although this adds weight, it could possibly feel artificial, supplying you with less a feeling of connection using the front tires, especially using the heavier engines fitted. All cars are simple to maneuver out partying, however. Interior would be the 3008 showstopper. Striking design and plush materials won't suit all driving positions, though. Peugeot is just not a brand famed for offering tactile, high-quality interiors in the cars of old. However, the 3008 is really a big step above older models, with unusual wood and fabric trims on offer along with a striking overall interior layout. While you won't mistake the cabin for the Volkswagen, it can do feel well developed, and you are able to spot design cues paying homage to current Jaguar, Audi and Mercedes models. As a result, the 3008 comes with a strong feel-good factor for that price. The small controls, with instruments viewed over it, might be an acquired taste. Nevertheless, the cabin mostly is effective. The virtual cockpit-style digital dials is capable of displaying many different combinations of information, from traditional analog gauges to your pared-down setting which shows an electronic speedometer but not much else. What may be the Peugeot 3008's virtual cockpit? Sat-nav instructions can even be overlaid on these, though we found it irritating that directions completely obscured the rev counter inside the conventional display. A vital dial inside a car having an engine is quiet because the 130 horsepower petrol. With mode selected using a roller start the tire, it's quite simple to jump in one mode to another around the move. The touchscreen media system, meanwhile, is leagues more usable compared to the system in other Peugeots, such because the 308 hatchback, that's an unresponsive screen and frustratingly convoluted controls. The screen is usually quite large compared to many similarly priced cars, such since the Renault Kadjar. There have become few physical controls throughout the cabin, bar a type of 7 identically sized silver switches and 6 buttons below these. Despite the slick kind of these, the simple fact they all check out same and have absolutely small logos to them makes them unnecessarily tough to differentiate when driving. Comfort levels won't disappoint. Some designs have stiffer seats than these. Suspension assimilates majority of bumps. Style plays a big part inside 3008's interior with black, textured, aged oak trim on GT models and fabric dashboard detailing on some allure cars. This style does include a cost, though. The fabric seats having a ridge continuing to fall the center in allure cars may look nice, however, these aren't probably the most comfortable, using the ridged fabric digging into front passengers' back somewhat. The suspension you may also have a bit more yielding on rough, bumpy roads too. While your vehicle shrugs off undulations perfectly, bad bumps and ruts inside the road they make themselves felt in excess of many drivers might expect from your car with off-road pretensions. Space levels are great, however. Avoid the glass roof, and passengers in rows should have an abundance of head and legroom, with all the flat rear floor leaving plenty of footroom for three to sit down alongside the other person. The high floor in comparison with all the seat base includes that taller people may go through like they're looking at a small child's chair, because of their legs slightly excessive compared to using the rest of their body. Specify the glass roof and headroom is usually a little about the tight side for taller passengers, but it can do add a nice level of light into the cabin, especially on models with dark roof lining. Engine refinement is often a bit of a mixed bag. The 130 horsepower petrol motor can be quite smooth and quiet, emitting an eager thrum when worked hard. Both 120 horsepower and 180 horsepower diesels do not hide their number of fuel, especially the automatic only 180 horsepower unit, however, are adequately hushed with the class. The 165 horsepower petrol tested, meanwhile, would have been a little more coarse than expected, especially considering how muted smaller petrol engine is. Opt for any model with wide tires and an amazing lot of road and tire noise is audible, though narrower-tired models are a lot easier quieter. Wind noise, within the other hand, is not really audible. Lots of ordinary equipment. High-spec models won't create wanting. Mid-range models represent the top value. You're unlikely to become disappointed through the kit depend on even entry-level 3008 models. It comes having a generous volume of standard equipment, as well as a good amount of desirable optional extras. Standard Peugeot 3008 SUV equipment. All 3008s have a big raft of safety kit along with an 8.0-inch touchscreen media system and 12.3-inch configurable digital dials. Peugeot says most buyers decide on pricier but better equipped models. Safety technology available within the 3008 includes automatic emergency braking, activated in the event the car senses a hazard ahead that this driver hasn't replied to, and adaptive cruise control, which keeps a safe distance behind the automobile in front, even when it decelerates or accelerates, as well as a speed limiter function. Peugeot 3008 active standard equipment. Entry-level active models include a generous volume of kit, including 17-inch alloy wheels, DAB radio, mirror screen, enables mirror link, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, automatic lights and wipers, lane departure warning, autonomous emergency braking, dual zone climate control, rear parking sensors. Peugeot 3008 Allure standard equipment. Jump approximately mid-range Allure, get a more comprehensive kit list, including things like 18-inch alloy wheels, black and chrome exterior trim, sat-nav with 3D maps and voice control, active blind spot detection, active lane keeping assistance and advanced driver attention alert, tinted rear windows, front and rear parking sensors plus reversing camera, power folding door mirrors with blind spot detection, attractive fabric interior trim along the dash and doors. Peugeot 3008 GT line standard equipment. GT line models start being active. Exterior styling features to get a more eye-catching look. Black door mirrors, checkered radiator grille, black roof, chrome exterior trim, full LED headlamps with scrolling indicators, wireless phone charging, black headlining. Leather and fabric sports seats with contrast stitching on seats and tire. Peugeot 3008 GT standard equipment. GT models ramp up the kit count, adding the next over GT line trim. 19-inch alloy wheels. Aluminium roof bars. Panoramic sunroof. Chrome door mirrors. Keyless entry and ignition. Electric tailgate. Grey oak interior dash trim. Full leather upholstery with electric adjustment and massage function to the driver's seat, front seat heating and adjustable seat base extensions. Optional Peugeot 3008 SUV accessories. If the typical kit isn't enough, you are able to venture in the options list. Here, you'll discover a 10-speaker 515-watt focal audio system, a 360-degree Visual Park system that helps you see everywhere in the vehicle when parking, and grip control, such as 18-inch alloy wheels with mud and snow tires and 5 different modes for optimum traction in tricky driving conditions. This system optimizes the automobile for driving in normal, snow, mud and sand conditions, which has a final setting turning the soundness control system off altogether. It also includes hill assist descent control, which helps your vehicle to tackle steep downward stretches safely. Lots of ordinary safety kit within the 3008. Various driver assistance systems. 5-star Euro NCAP score. The 3008 scored a maximum rating of 5 stars when crash tested by Euro NCAP in 2016. The car scored as well for adults from the front seats and children from the back. Pedestrian and automatic safety equipment didn't quite match the most effective performing cars back then, though a raft of kit can be acquired including sets from Lane Keep Help automatic emergency braking. Most models feature a different Safety Plus pack which warns drivers to vehicles of their blind spots, keeps the car rolling around in its lane on multi-lane roads, driver attention assist, which gauges if the driver is remaining alert, plus high beam assistance, which prevents drivers from dazzling oncoming traffic by switching between main and dipped beam automatically. Optional grip control, which include mud and snow tires, offers greater safety for winter driving and handling muddy or cold and wet terrain. This traction control system helps you to maximize the grip the vehicle has, with some other settings ensuring the maximum chance of keeping moving about the respective terrain. Plenty of passenger space. Boot is one in the biggest rolling around in its class. Neat practicality touches, too. Bypass the actual top rim stealing glass roof along with the 3008 is usually a practical family car. The front armrest is mammoth, practically swallowing the driving force or front passenger's entire arms if and when they need to salvage anything from the base. The armrest storage is accessed with 2 horizontally split parts, which open more easily about the move compared to a one-part lid hinged in the dust. There are 2 cup holders positioned right in front of this, plus usefully sized door bins. The glove box is about the small side, however. The boot can be quite large, meanwhile, with 520 or 591 liters of space available depending for the position on the boot floor, expanding 1,580 liters when you drop the corner seats, much larger compared to the Nissan Qashqai. The flat rear floor makes video viable 5-seater, with space for the adult middle rear passenger. The front passenger seat could be folded flat, meaning you are able to load items of around 3 meters long, even though the boot comes with an adjustable floor with removable side panels with regard to added practicality. The size from the 3008 is average for your crossover class. It's larger as opposed to Nissan Qashqai, but it reelings with the par with all the likes with the Seat Etika, VW Tiggan and Kia Sportage. Will the Peugeot 3008 SUV easily fit into my garage? It doesn't feel too big to manage around the road, though, and once it comes to parking in a very tight spot, lots of assistance systems like parking sensors and cameras help to give you a clearer picture of what's taking around you. Will my luggage fit from the Peugeot 3008 SUV? The 3008 offers up one from the largest boots in the class. With the spine seats in place along with the adjustable boot floor in the lowest position, a massive 591 liters of space is accessible. Position the floor a better view up in line together with the boot sill, and it's still an outstanding 520 liters. That's more versus the 510 liters offered with the seat Etica. It's all too easy to tumble the seats down, increasing capacity to a single 670 liters. From October 2019, GT Line and GT Spec models will have a boot floor which also slides out by 30 centimeters to help loading heavier items, too.